This is the plaintiff, Gerard Robbins. He says he brought his laptop to the defendant's repair shop, and the guy destroyed the thing. When he got it back, it didn't work right. There were screws and other internal parts missing or broken off. And he's owed $3,000, so he's suing him here for it. This is the defendant, J.R. Abed-Rabot. He says he's been working on computers at his shop since 1993, and he replaced the guy's motherboard. The problem he's having now is a software issue, because he cloned another laptop, which is illegal. The guy got out of control in his shop. He had to call the cops on him, and now here they are. He's accused of not making things compute. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $3,000 for aggravation.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says that he brought his laptop to the defendant for repairs and says that the guy destroyed it and he wants $3,000. Now, the defendant is saying that the guy did bring it in. He replaced the motherboard, gave it back to the plaintiff, and it worked just fine. It's the case of lap dance.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Robbins, what happened?
I brought my computer into the defendant's shop on April 14th, and he asked me for $214.
Hold on one second. You had a Mac, and what did he say was wrong with it?
Well, he said he'd have to find out what was wrong with it, and he said the diagnosis would cost $42. He called me a day later. He said it's going to cost you $214. Actually, the same day, $214 to replace the motherboard. He says, I'm sure that it's the motherboard that's the problem.
At this point, you had paid him how much?
$214.
Okay. What had you agreed to pay him?
He said $500. He quoted me $500.
Okay, so why did you pay him $214?
That was the down payment. He said he required $214 as a down payment.
Okay, so go on.
He said it's only going to take me 3 days to complete the job. I said, all right.
This is a 2011 Mac?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go on.
3 weeks later, actually a week and a half later, he said, I called him to find out what happened with the computer, and did he fix it? He said, well, I ordered the wrong motherboard. I said, well, why didn't you call me and tell me your motherboard? Well, I was going to call you, but don't worry, it's going to be in another couple of days. So now it's like maybe more than a week or so later, I come into the store, and he says, okay, here's your computer. I need $213 more. I need the balance on the computer. Plus, I need you to give me some more time to fix this computer if you have any problem with it. So I said, you told me you were going to fix the computer. You told me it was only going to take you 3 days. Now it's almost a full month.
Wait, I'm totally confused. Why do you go if it's not ready yet?
Because he told me to come in. He told me it was ready.
Oh, okay. And then you get there, and what happens?
To turn on, it's not actually coming on right away. It takes maybe 10, 15 minutes to come on. But he said, don't worry about that. He said, I'm going to put a new hard drive in, and that should correct the problem.
So you never took the computer with you that day?
I took the computer back with me that day, yes.
Why did you take it if it wasn't fixed?
Because he said what you have to do is restart it when you get home. Everything's going to be fine. This is a temporary thing. Don't worry about it. I said, okay, I'll try it at home. I'll try it.
All right. So at that point, you had paid him a total of what?
$470.32.
Okay, go on.
I went back to the store. He said, the problem is not your motherboard. The problem is your hard drive.
Right. And then he said he was going to do what?
He said, I'll give you this hard drive, put this new hard drive in, and because the motherboard is fine, when I put the hard drive in, I still had the same exact problems. Okay. So he said, so that's when he opened.
Where did you discover that you had the same exact problems? In his shop or somewhere else?
At home. At home.
Okay, so then you call him and what?
He said, bring the computer in. He changes the hard drive. That was the day before. That night, I just transferred the data to the new hard drive. When I called him and I said, I still have the same problem, he says, okay, I'll put your other hard drive in.
What was the problem you were having?
When you turned it on, it would take a while for it to boot up. And also, in addition to that, it was moving extremely slowly.
Okay, so go on.
So he says, okay, I'll change the hard drive. He said, I'll take the hard drive out. You can keep the new hard drive because there's obviously nothing wrong with the hard drive. It must be the motherboard. So
So he now says that the brand new, did he install a brand new motherboard?
he said he was installing a brand new motherboard. Exactly.
Go on.
He said to me, listen, if I don't repair this computer today, I'll give you your money back. All right. And I'll give you your computer. I said, that's fair enough. I said, sure. So then he says, but after he works on it for another hour and a half, he says, listen, I need more time. Can you leave the computer with me for another day? I said, listen, I don't want to go over this anymore. And he says, he opens up the computer, says, I see the problem now is the motherboard. I've got to return the motherboard. I've got to return the motherboard back to the seller. And I said, okay, but I want my money back. He said, listen, you got to give me more time. And he starts arguing with me, and then he calls the police. I couldn't believe it. The police arrived. There's nobody arguing. There's nobody. And the police,
Well, you said he was
even
arguing.
asked him. They said, sir, obviously you're not happy with the work that this guy does. Is there anything you guys can do to work this out?
Okay,
He
then
says,
you
"No."
can't work it out, and then you end up suing. And let me hear from you, Mr. Abedrabo, because according to him, you did not fix the computer. So why should he pay you $400 and something? Why shouldn't he get all of it back? Of course, he's not suing for just the 214. As it turns out, you contested with the credit card. You won on 265. The 214 was put in a debit card, so you didn't get that back. And you're suing for that, but that 214 isn't all you're suing for. You want him to buy you a brand new $1,900 laptop, even though he never worked on a $1,900 laptop, and you want him to pay you for aggravation. So your lawsuit is actually the maximum amount, $3,000, not $214, which I would understand because that's what you're out right now, but $3,000. Now, let me hear from you, Mr. Abedrabo. You have a counterclaim against him for the $256.32 that the credit card company ended up ruling in his favor. So you believe he should be out the full $470.32. But why, if the computer was still not working?
Your Honor, the computer is 100% working fine. Mr. Gerald simply no longer wanted the computer repaired because he simply replaced it during the time he was waiting
How do you know that?
for his computer. He brought it here to my shop, and he turned it on to show me, see, this computer is fast and it's running fine. Exact same computer he had purchased. So during the time he was waiting for his computer to be done, he went out and purchased one.
Did you go out and purchase another computer in the meantime, Mr. Robbins?
No, I didn't.
Did you bring
No,
a
I
second
didn't.
computer to his store?
I should have mentioned that before. Yes, I have a second computer. It's similar to that one. They're both Macs. And what I do is I keep one computer secured in my vehicle and another computer home. This way, if I'm on the road working,
Okay.
I don't have to come back home to use documents. But I brought the computer in to show
Okay,
him
no,
the difference.
stop talking. Go ahead, Mr. Abedrabo. According to you, he just had buyer's remorse. But so are you saying that that computer was working when he took it from you the last time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
That
and
he
what
brought in
date was the
computer,
last day? The day the police are called and it's the last day you see him. What day is that?
May 9th.
Okay. Now, on May 9th, he leaves, and there's an argument between you two. The police get called because who got out of control?
Mr. Gerald. That's why I called the police.
All right. And how did he get out of control?
Well, Mr. Gerald demanded the work be undone immediately as he waits. This is a 90-minute job, Your Honor. And I asked, okay, well, I will examine the computer for the last time. And if there's still something wrong with it, I will be more than happy to go ahead and undo the work and refund your money. I was showing him it was working for about 15 minutes and the computer was functioning fine. To prove that to myself and to him that the motherboard is fine, I put in a brand new hard drive in that computer for free.
And
Turned it on. That's what happened on May 6th. And he saw that, and he saw the computer work perfect. He says, okay, now I agree with you. I'm happy. He takes it and leaves. Now, he comes back after the weekend on the 9th saying, look, the computer's not working right. It's slow. He went and cloned the hard drive either had a malware or some issues with it.
now
that
the
makes
hard drive
computer
has
slow.
a malware. Okay.
Obviously,
Did
the
you ask him to
software has
bring
an
in the
issue, Judge.
hardware so you could inspect it and see what the problem was?
Right. I done that the second time. That's why I put a new hard drive, and he was very happy. He saw the computer working fine.
How did he
Then
test the
does
computer
cloning.
working on that day?
Turned it on. After we put the new hard drive, he turned it on. He saw it came right on, and he accessed the Wi-Fi. He accessed a few applications, and that shows the new motherboard is working fine 100%.
You end up having the problem. The police come. What do, Mr. Robbins? You end up taking that machine to another source, correct?
The following day, I took it to Micro Center.
Okay, now hold
and,
on. What day do you leave with the police and all that stuff? May 8th?
That's on the 7th.
On the
We
7th.
actually left on the 7th.
Okay. When do you take it to Micro Center?
On the 8th.
Okay. And what happens? That's fine. What
okay.
happens?
They said the computer needs to be repaired and leave it with us.
Did they tell you why?
Yeah.
What was wrong with it?
They sent me images of the computer with the hard drive that was damaged, the motherboard that was damaged, missing screws, as well as a written report.
This is the document you're referring to. And in this document, what they say on May 9th at 6:11, drive failure verified, ran MRI, passed, boots into our test drive, no problem, we'll need new drive. That's what they say, okay?
Uh-huh.
They don't say the motherboard is a problem. They say everything is fine and everything includes the motherboard. And then they say we'll need new drive. Then 3 minutes later, hard drive failure verified. Rest of unit passed. Opened unit, some screws were not the same. Looked inside, did not see anything out of the ordinary. Boots into our test drive, no problem, via USB. We'll need a new drive. Now here's what I want to know. At the time that you bring them that computer, which drive do you have in there? The new free one that he had put in, or had he put back in your old drive?
My original drive.
Who had the new drive at that point?
I had the new drive because my data was on it, and he said, here, just keep this, it's a gift.
Okay, and so why was the old one put back on?
Because he said there was nothing wrong. He told me there was nothing wrong with the hard drive.
But you never paid him to fix your hard drive, right?
That's correct.
And then what you're saying doesn't stand to reason, because what he did was give you a new hard drive to show you that the motherboard's fine.
No.
So there's a reason
he
he gives
gave
you a
me-
new
he
hard
gave me
drive.
the-
It's
he
because
gave me the
the
hard
drive is the
drive.
problem. And then you take it to the new place, and they're saying the drive is the problem.
No. If you look a little further down,
I do look
in that
further
same
down, but I'm
document-
trying to understand these first two notes first. Then I see that a half an hour later, which I presume that the difference is they talked to you. And then they say,
Right.
spoke to client over the phone. He took it to another shop that had it replaced, and they worked on the logic board as well as replacing the drive. Took unit
Exactly.
apart again and inspected the logic board closely to see what they did. And then here's what they say about the logic board. Found some chips and capacitors on the logic board that looked damaged or not put on right. Did explain over the phone the unit was using different screws holding the bottom case, which isn't unusual at first because screws can go missing and they're small. But looking inside, I did find a few places on the logic board that was damaged. Okay. Physical damage is one thing, and whether it's affecting the computer is a different thing. So I need to know that the motherboard isn't working for him to give you all of your money back on the motherboard. But hold on one second. Also found a gold Phillips screw holding down the board. Also missing the bottom cushion to hold it in place, just the top part, and is missing one screw to hold down the hard drive cable. Now, again, everybody's in agreement that he didn't charge you anything for the hard drive.
That's right.
All right. Due to further issues, can't recommend repair, as it will need a new drive and logic board, as the logic board is physically damaged beyond repair. Why didn't they say that earlier that night? Why did they say everything is fine? Mr. Abedrabo, and what say you to that? I want to give you a chance to respond.
If you're asking for my opinion, Your Honor, they must have wrote down what Mr. Gerald told them to write down.
I have the same impression. If the first two times everything was just peachy keen with their test drive, then that means the motherboard was working. Now, Mr. Abedrabo, why, if you ordered him a new motherboard, was there any physical damage to this motherboard, like they were saying? Why were there screws missing, and what is that about?
No, I don't know about the physical damage. I think that there was no physical damage in that
Okay, so you
motherboard,
think they're
Your
out
Honor.
and out lying?
Absolutely, Judge.
Okay, now my next
Absolutely.
question to you is, why are there screws missing if you ordered him a new
All
motherboard?
right. Because when the last seconds he was here, or the last moments he was here. He wanted the computer. He wanted his computer. He didn't want to wait. He says, "Give me my computer." The police says, "Okay, just put it back together for him quickly and let him have it." And I did that. I might have maybe one screw or two missing, Your Honor.
Here's how I'm going to rule, folks. You have a counterclaim against him for the $256.32 that the credit card company ruled in his favor, and aggravation, $2743.68, so that you also have a lawsuit against him for $3,000. On your lawsuit against him, $0. And on his lawsuit against you, where he's asking for the $214 back that he wasn't able to get from the credit card company, I am going to rule in your favor. Because if the machine, in fact, works at Micro Center at 6:11 and at 6:15 beautifully, except for the drive, then the problem is the drive, just like Micro Center said twice. And if it's physically damaged, then I think he should be able to keep the $256.32 that the credit card company allowed him to keep. So on his lawsuit against you, $0. And on your lawsuit against him, also $0. There is no way that the motherboard didn't work, but the motherboard shouldn't have physical damage on it, okay? So I don't know how that happened, but I think that's a good compromise that he ends up just keeping part of it. And I'm willing to respect Micro Center's conclusion that the problem was a drive over and over until they talk to you a third time. All right, that's my verdict. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, two $3,000 lawsuits and nobody gets anything. Let's start with Mr. Robbins, the plaintiff. Mr. Robbins, are you happy with the judge's decision?
I just wish the judge had let me explain exactly why there was a discrepancy in the first thing that Micro Center said in the second, but she never gave me the opportunity.
Okay, well, you have to. That's the way she ruled. Let's talk to Mr. Abed-Rabo. Mr. Abed-Rabo, you're the defendant. What are you thinking? You were sued for $3,000. You don't have to pay that, nor do you get $3,000. What are you thinking?
As a matter of fact, I believe the damage in that motherboard was damaged by Mr. Robinson to try to show that the hard drive is not, the motherboard is not working.
I don't think he did that.
This is the motherboard. The motherboard, the capacitor is right here. He chipped it, hoping to show that the hard drive, the motherboard is not working. But the motherboard.
Mr. Abed-Rabo?
Yes.
I'm sorry. We're going to have to end this.
Okay, Doug, we've talked about this before. Going to small claims court is probably the easiest judicial experience a layperson is going to have because the rules bend and judges understand that people aren't lawyers when they come in. There is an even more effective, less painful way of trying to resolve disputes like this, and that is working with a credit card company. Credit card companies all have consumer units, and if you feel that somebody has defrauded you or you've been billed unfairly, try working it out with the credit card company first. You can always go to court, but take that first bite of the apple. It can save you a trip to the courthouse.
Let me bounce that back at you for a second. If I asked you what role do judges play in establishing public policy, what would you say?
0.
Right, exactly, because
That
judges,
is what our legislators are
judges
for.
need to stay in their lane. We got the legislature, you got the executive branch, and then you've got the judiciary. When things in our system of government back in the 18th century, Alexander Hamilton wrote in Federalist 78 that the judiciary should be the least dangerous branch of government because they have no power over the purse or over the sword. Which would be legislature that funds things and the executive that handles law enforcement and things like that. So I think judges need to be conscious of that.
Yeah, you're a
all the time.
referee. You call the balls on the strikes. That's your job. It's not your job to have a certain political belief or a certain ideology and then enforce it on the bench. Because the rule of law has to apply to everybody equally.
Right.
And not be based on each individual judge's political agenda or
whims
or philosophy
right.
or anything else.